Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Nothing Zilch Nada. My name is Xavier,
And I'm Jacob Green.
and this week is Jake's topic. Jake, what is your topic for this week?
Well, as I've told you already, I had different suggestions for topics in mind, but since I'm home right now, I want to finish talking about my short stories, or at least the two that I've ever written. So last time we talked about the short story that I wrote about a dog essentially going through the 5 stages of grief. And if you've not seen that episode, definitely check it out.
That was
But
an episode from 2 weeks ago for those of you who are wondering.
mhm. but um, originally, when I was doing this, I thought that that was the only short story that I ever written. But going through my time capsules again, as I mentioned in that episode, I realized that there was another short story that I written. This one was from my junior year of high school. Um, and for this particular one, unlike the previous story, which was an original story that I created from scratch, this one is somewhat of original story, but it's based on an already made property. Well, I shouldn't say property. It's already a series of its own short stories. And some of you might have heard of it, some of you may have not, but the short story series I'm talking about is Father Brown, written by G.K. Chesterton. So before I get to this short story, I need to provide some context for those of you that may not be familiar with Father Brown. So Father Brown, it's a short story series, and it refers to the numerous mystery tales, again, written by G.K. Chesterton, and they feature a main character who is an unassuming priest named Father Brown, and he's also depicted as being short in a lot of the stories. Um, but but Father Brown isn't just a priest. He's known for his philosophical depth and uncanny ability to solve crimes using intuition. So the first collection of Father Brown short stories was in 1911 called The Innocence of Father Brown. And they would go into later works titled Wisdom of Father Brown and The Incredulity of Father Brown. And a lot of these short stories are very good. I've read a couple of them. Although some of you might also be familiar with the TV series based on the short story series by G.K. Chesterton, also known as Father Brown, that is provided by BBC and is usually aired on networks like PBS. And that TV series is also really good and really captures the spirit of Father Brown. But I think it might have been the first 2 seasons that really dwelled into the original short stories that were created by G.K. Chesterton. The first one that I read, and I believe this was the first one that was written because it was the first episode of Father Brown, but it was called The Hammer of God. And there are some other popular ones called The Blue Cross and The Invisible Man. And that is just a basic summary of Father Brown. And I'm sure I could get more into it some other time, but I want to talk about uh, the a summary for a different short story, which is the basis of what this short story was written for, and that is The Sign of the Broken Sword. So, in summary, this particular short story features two characters. So we got Father Brown and then the former criminal Flambeau. So Flambeau is kind of like, I guess you could call him the antagonist in like the early short stories. He's kind of portrayed as this master of disguise. Like you can't recognize him unless he reveals his face to you. Um, and it's depicted really well in the show. But in the short story series, he forgoes crime and becomes sort of a partner for Father Brown. And I call him an antagonist because he kind of has a similar level of wit to Father Brown, which is why he's always like so hard to catch. Um,
He is
and
the human San Diego of Father Brown.
yeah, so and I should also say these particular mysteries, some of them are murder based, uh, like recent murder events, and the TV series usually focuses on those mysteries, but the short stories also focus on more interesting mysteries. Well, I shouldn't say interesting. It has various different mysteries because this particular short story isn't about a murder. It's about finding a grave. So this short story titled The Sign of the Broken Sword is where Father Brown reveals the true and tragic story behind the public perception of war hero General Sir Arthur St. Clair, who was found hanged with his broken sword around his neck. So the story reveals that they were trying to look for his grave, and there's a fictional war going on between England and Brazil, which is where the basis of the short story takes place. But it's revealed that the general was not a hero, but a corrupt man who sold military secrets, ultimately committing suicide by hanging after treason, and was discovered by an officer. Again, I would get more into it in maybe a previous episode, but that's all you need to know for this particular short story. But like my previous short story, this is really based around The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, which is one of my favorite games of all time. Except in the previous short story, I used the concept of the 5 stages of grief, which is portrayed in all sorts of media for the short story that I was writing for. This particular one focuses more on the lore of Majora's Mask, especially the opening. So the opening of the short story has Flambeau and Father Brown walking in a forest, and there's like fog everywhere. And oddly enough, that is also the opening for Majora's Mask. So that's where I got the idea to get it from. So I'm going to go ahead and read my short story. I just titled it My Short Story of Broken Sword. This one isn't going to be as long as the previous one. I might skip some stuff, but we're going to go ahead and read through the opening. So, the trees were gray and lifeless, and the thick fog covered air with an ominous feeling. The forest was all but silence, except for the howling of the wind and the sound of footsteps in the distance. There in the forest were 2 companions, on to search for a tomb of great importance. One companion was short with a round face, glasses covering his eyes, a black cassock covering his body, and on his head was a black cap and a rounded brim surrounding it. So if you can't tell, that's Father Brown. And I don't know if he's depicted like that in the short stories. I assume so, but he's depicted like that in the show. Although in the short stories, he is depicted as short. with him a friend of his who was tall and also wore black, like his priestly companion. They told each other riddles as they went along the path to the tomb of St. Clair. The two friendly companions then came to a stop as they saw a ginormous and gray tree that had a small opening, and the inside was hollow, empty, and darkness covered the inside. Nothing was in sight except for a stairway that led down into the pitch black void. So, and this is where it deviates from the original short story. So, for context, I wrote this short story as like this. While they're looking for the tomb of St. Clair, they make a wrong turn and they come across the tree that is supposed to symbolize the tree that you fall into in Majora's Mask. Except in that game, you enter the tree and you fall down the hole. There wasn't any stairs. Here I put stairs in because they're not running from a crazy maniac.
Mm-hmm.
So they start talking. Are you sure this is the right way, Father Brown? Said the tall companion. I believe so, Flambeau, said Father Brown. But whatever awaits us, we are sure to find something of importance or value. Flambeau then lit a match as he and Father Brown went down the spiraling staircase into the deep void of darkness. Flambeau dropped the match as it burned his fingers. The match did not go too far down as it landed on a small puddle. Again, reference to Majora's Mask when your main character, as you're playing as Link, falls down on a puddle, but he lands on a Deku flower, which are very common in the game. Well, it seems that we have reached soft ground, said Father Brown. As Brown and Flambeau finished walking down the spirally staircase, they came across a lantern. Flambeau, light the lantern with the last match you have, said Father Brown. Flambeau lit the lantern and said, well, at least we'll be able to see our surroundings. As Flambeau and Brown looked around the once dark hollow tree when they came across a tomb. This must be the tomb of St. Clair, said Flambeau. And he holds up the lantern to read the engraving. Here lies the fallen hero who died saving the world. It seems we have made a wrong turn, Father, said Flambeau. This tomb is not of St. Clair. We should turn back. Didn't I say we would find something of importance, Flambeau? Questioned the short priest. Yes, you did, Father, answered Flambeau. Then we will find the tomb of St. Clair later and figure out the mystery of this tomb at this moment. So, the tomb that they found, I think it's not revealed in this short story, but I think I made it so that way it's the tomb of Link. Except in the game you do save the world. Well, actually, you save two worlds. You know, if you include the events of Ocarina of Time, although those not getting into those those stories.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. So they ran around the tomb that had the stone, and I said that the stone was as gray as the trees in the forest. There might be some clues inside the tomb, said Father Brown. Then the two lifted the seal on the top of the tomb and set it off by the tomb. Inside the cold stone tomb was a skeleton of a man whose bones were covered in webs of spiders. In the grasp of his hands was a mask that appeared to fit the man's skull. The mask had human skin color, red slashes across its face, and hair that was white as snow. Okay, yes. So this does confirm that this is Link's tomb. So one of the main gameplay features of Majora's Mask is collecting masks. And I believe there are 24 in total. And I'm not one to be completing 100% runs for games, but I always collect the masks in Majora's Mask because they're very great pieces to have. Not all of them are useful. Some Some of them are kind of throwaway, but the transformation masks that allows you to transform into different species are awesome. Because like you got the Deku masks, got the Goron mask, the Zora mask. They gave you different abilities. But then the other transformation mask, which is only used in boss battles, is called the Fierce Deity mask, and that is the mask that Link is holding in his grave. And basically, it turns you into like adult Link because you're playing as child Link in Majora's Mask, but it's adult Link, but he has white eyes. He's got red tribal slashes on his face. He's got a tealish uh, tunic, uh, some silver armor, and a double helix sword, which just looks awesome. Um, but yeah, this is the mask that you usually get after getting all the other masks, and you can beat the final boss with that mask. Story goes on. I wonder if this mask will provide any clues to the mystery of this fallen hero, said Father Brown as he removed the frightening mask from the hero's skulls. It is worth a shot, said Flambeau. Father Brown took a good look at the mask and slowly moved it towards his face. As soon as the mask was on Father Brown's face, everything spiraled into a dark void where Flambeau mysteriously disappeared, and the dark void was replaced with a clock tower that ticked every second. So now you're being placed into the main town that you entered in Majora's Mask. So the world that you enter in Majora's Mask is called Termina, which is a parallel world to Hyrule. And the town that you first enter in is Clock Town. And haha, there's a clock tower in the center of the town. Let's see. And then there's a mysterious voice. You have met with a terrible fate, haven't you? That is what the happy mask salesman in the game says to you in a few instances. And it's one of the most iconic quotes of that game. As Father Brown turned to see who was sneaking, there stood a man. He was tall, with a tunic as blue as the sky, and armor that polished like a mirror. So that's the fierce deity entity. His face was very intriguing, for it was the same as the mask, and Father Brown was in the tomb, except for the eyes, which were white as a cloud. Who are you? Questioned the priest. I am but a faithful warrior, said the man. I have little time before this mask disappears, and I am trapped into the realm of the unknown. So listen very carefully. Several years ago, I came to a town with a clock tower like the one you see before you. Inside the town was a dark beast that almost wiped out the entire population. Hearing of the dangers of this dark beast, I was brave enough to carve out a mask, one that would seal the cunning beast that was full of malice and hate. Although I was able to capture the creature inside the mask, he put a curse on me and the town that I mentioned previously. His exact words were, and I quote, "The hero and success of my capture will be sealed in a mask for all eternity. And as for the town, here is my warning. I shall return, but in a different form. And in my grand entrance to this town, I will bring down the moon that shines brightly as the night. And it will be 3 days before the moon will destroy every living creature that roams in this world." So, sidetrack. So there is a manga version of Majora's Mask. There's actually a few manga versions based on the Zelda games, but I've read the Majora's Masks one. And there's a side story where it goes far into the past. And in this particular story, there's the Dark Beast Majora, and essentially the hero was this fierce deity. And once he beats Majora, he conceals the dark spirit of the beast with a mask made of the dark beast's own armor. Now, that's not the case in the game. You don't really get to know the mystery of Majora that much in the game. But that was the case in the manga, so I used that in this story. And then, so Father Brown says, "Why do you tell me this?" "Because the day is approaching very soon," said the hero. "I need your help to find a hero, one with courage that will end the apocalypse so that the town is saved and that I can finally rest in peace." "I understand," said Father Brown. As soon as the priest said this, the clock tower rang 12 times. After the final stroke, the hero and the clock tower faded away into nothingness. As Father Brown woke up, he was in the gray forest leaning against a tree. He looked around and saw Flambeau standing a few feet away, smoking a cigar. "Did you have a nice nap, Father?" said Flambeau sarcastically. "How are we back in the forest and what happened to the mask?" questioned Father Brown. "After you put on the mask," said Flambeau, "I tried to wake you up, but you wouldn't respond. It was then that I decided to carry you all the way up to the entrance of the tree. As for the mask, it disintegrated into nothingness after I set you down next to the tree." "Thank you, my friend," said Father Brown, still trying to recover from his trance. As he stood up, Flambeau said, "Did you see or discover anything of importance?" "I'll tell you on our way home," said Father Brown. "Don't worry. We'll find the tomb of St. Clair another day." As Father Brown started telling Flambeau what happened in his dream, they started to walk back home through the gray forest with a beam of sunlight cutting through the thick fog in the distance. So, shorter short story compared to last time. Also, even though my paragraphs aren't spaced out, it is much easier to read because the paragraphs are much more shorter. Um, yeah, so this is very Majora's Mask based
Right.
in terms of this story. So I wrote it before the actual events of Majora's Mask take place. So it hasn't really happened yet. But what did you think, Xavier?
It was so it was a story that I felt was easy to follow along with. I could imagine every situation and every event that was going on in the story. Personally, I liked it, and it makes me think that you would be a great fan fiction writer.
Yeah, well, just like you with coming up with different movies, I've come up with different stories in my head, mainly for games, oddly enough. Which, like, not that I wouldn't want to write something as like a simple story and whatnot, but um, there's something about stories in games where, like, when when there's a game that executes in both gameplay and story very well, like it's just like a match made perfect. And that's what I think about Majora's Mask personally, because
Hmm.
in that game, this is interesting because Majora's Mask, the main story, like it's important, but it's not really the story that people mostly talk about because the main story is about stopping Majora's Mask and, bringing peace to all the different areas surrounding Clock Town, just so that way we could stop the moon. And
Right.
it's not like you don't forget about the moon because it's everywhere you go when you're outside because it's got an angry face on it. Um, and it's slowly approaching. But um, no, the what I think is the most interesting aspect of Majora's Mask is like the side quests that you do and the characters that you meet. Um, and that's where you really get to see its true depth. Um, and again, I'll get more into it in a different episode because like there's just so much to say about this game. And I'll admit, I'm super biased because I know this game is not for everybody and it's not that perfect, but I also don't care.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, but I was, but how you were saying how it's easier to follow, I could kind of see that because the previous short story. Now, given the fact that, I was still developing my writing skills back then, Um, I think the hectic nature of that story makes sense considering that, in that story, you're frantically trying to find someone. And like I intentionally made the dog sporadic in nature in terms of its mindset. Um, Whereas this short story, besides being shorter, it's also very slow. Well, not that slow. I think it's about a medium pace. But it definitely has a much easier flow than the previous short story did. Um, yeah, but I pretty much really enjoyed. I remember enjoying writing this one back then, and I really like Father Brown in general. I like murder mysteries in general,
Hmm.
mysteries in general. I would like to talk about more about Father Brown and other stuff that I like Death in Paradise.
Right.
And I mentioned when we did our top 10 favorite movies that I really liked Knives Out because its mystery was so intriguing.
Hmm. Right. Of course. All right. I still think you would make a great fan fiction author. Like, so my girlfriend likes to read a lot of fan fictions, and you've got different types, but the types she likes to listen to or read are the types where she takes some of her favorite fandoms and there's like crossovers. So, like, you know, sh- as an example, she likes Young Justice and Danny Phantom, so they're
Oh
different.
man, I love Young Justice, man.
Yes, Young Justice was great.
Yeah, I don't know how well season 3 and 4 were received, because those were released on streaming platforms, but I very much liked season 1 and 2.
Right.
Um,
Hold on. Let me. Was there a season four of Young Justice? I thought
there
there.
was it was Phantoms. Um, because each of the seasons I know had subtitles. I won't spoil what Phantoms is, um, but I've heard there's some divisive stuff with that particular season that I don't think some people care about.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think because each of the Young Justices had subtitles for each of their seasons. So let me check that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, no, no. Huh. Well, I'm trying to find it. Actually, let me go here. Okay, yeah. So first season was called Young Justice. The second season was called Invasion. The third season is Outsiders. And then Phantoms was the most recent one, which is it had 26 episodes and it was from October 2021 to March 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is interesting. I didn't know about this. So the first 2 seasons they were aired on Cartoon Network. But Outsiders was actually first aired on DC Universe, which makes sense. Um, but Phantoms was only aired on HBO Max, or at least it was first aired on there.
I think it might still be on there.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, but Young Justice is a pretty good series. And I like Danny Phantom too.
Right. All right. No, but like I said, she likes to read a bunch of those fan fictions where you take two separate canons, two separate fandoms, and you cross them over. And this, what you read, kind of feels like the whole two fandoms crossing over because you've got Father Brown and Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. Speaking of crossovers, though, you remember when Cartoon Network used to do? Let's see, because I'm trying to think. I think they did a crossover of Kids Next Door and Billy and Mandy. I don't
Mm,
know if you remember that one.
so I don't remember that one, but I was just watching a video yesterday about the crossover episode for Generator Rex and Ben 10.
Yes, yes, I loved that episode. And oh man, and Generator Rex was such a good show too. It was made by the same people that did the Ben 10 original series, before Alien Force. Um,
Mhm.
and like I loved not to knock down Alien Force or Omniverse, but like it their art styles just don't compare to something like the classic series or even Generator X.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that crossover that was like one of the best crossovers ever.
Yep.
Except for Smash Brothers. That's the best crossover.
I don't know. I was gonna say Lego Dimensions. I feel like Lego
Yeah,
Dimensions.
Lego Dimensions was a little bit different though, because first of all, that's a video game. Secondly, it's a Lego game of all things, and not to knock Lego games, I think some of them are pretty good. But we need to talk about Toys to Life games at some point because that was an interesting fad.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
But I'm
Also,
trying to
your
think.
argument was like it's a video game. Smash Bros is a video game.
Yes, it yeah, but they're still kind of handled differently though. And I mean, um I guess Smash Brothers does have like downloadable content now,
Hmm.
but Lego Dimensions has uh downloadable content and sets to buy,
Right.
which were which were kind of up in price even at that time. Because
Yeah.
I think the base set with the portal was like close to $100, I think.
Um.
I don't remember. I need we can save that discussion for another day. Because
Yeah.
because Legos Dimensions is just like 1/3 of the whole Toys to Life thing. Because you had Skylanders and you had Disney Infinity.
Yep.
And I'm not counting the Nintendo Amiibo stuff because they're handled differently.
Right. But that is a topic for another day. Jake, do you have anything else to add about today's topic?
No, except go read some Father Brown. You can actually read some of the short stories for free online, including this one, The Broken Sword. Um, I think The Hammer of God might be free to read as well. The Invisible Man I know is The Blue Cross. I know is those are also some really great stories. And go watch the series too. The series is excellent.
Alrighty. Well, with that, we're gonna end this episode. We'll meet back next week where I should have a topic. Think I got something planned, but in case I don't, I'll have a new plan for next week. Until then, I'm Xavier Dean.
And I'm Jacob Green.
Wishing you a wonderful day. Stay safe, and above all else, see a tree with a staircase. Whatever you do, don't put on the mask that's underneath of it. A wonderful day, everyone.